Welcome to Taking Songs to the Stage. My name is Megan Black, and I am a curriculum specialist at Quaver Ed. In this session, we will be finding and identifying performance literature ideas for primary and secondary grades, identify teaching concept examples and sample performance repertoire, and identify differentiated strategies to meet the needs of diverse learners during a performance. The first thing we want to think about when we're looking at taking songs to the stage is finding inspiration for our repertoire. One place that you can do this is looking in Resource Manager. When you log into your teacher dashboard, on the top row, you will see Resource Manager. Select Resource Manager, and then from there, on the left side, you will see Holidays, Seasons, and Celebrations. Select Holiday Seasons and Celebrations, and a drop-down menu will appear. And from the drop-down menu, you will see lots of different options for different seasons and celebrations. Select the one that you're interested in looking for repertoire for, and go from there. One thing that we want to consider when we are taking songs to the stage is how we can make a meaningful performance for our students. And one way that we can do this is to identify concepts for student growth and think about how can the concepts be supported in the songs for performance. Our first repertoire selections that we have is for fall. And so fall brings about the cool air, the changing of the seasons, football season. We have apple picking and Thanksgiving. And our primary repertoire selections are Fall Chant, Cloudy Weather, Joyful Joyful, and Wind Up the Apple Tree. And for costuming for the little guys, you can think about a sentence strip with apple decorations on their sentence strips. The students can color them and glue them on the sentence strips or cutouts of the apples. And for secondary, we have Thankful for You, Thanks to You, A Heart Full of Thanks, and Thanksgiving at Our House. The first song that we have that we're going to dive into today in full detail is our Fall Chant. And so this one is for the primary guys, and it is a wonderful resource here. So go ahead and take a listen with me. Pretend that you are a tree blowing in the wind as you take your first listen to this song.
Howling wind all around. Pumpkins grow big and round. Leaves falling in a bunch. Jump on in, crunch, crunch, crunch.
Alrighty, so one thing that I'm going to ask my students is I'm going to say, boys and girls, I have all of these instruments here, and they all make different sounds. I wonder if I can make sound effects for the poem that we had. I wonder what howling wind all around could sound like if we were using an instrument. And after I've demonstrated the different sounds and how to hold them, I can invite students to answer the question. And some of them might say maracas. I think it sounds like a shaker. So I'm going to select the shaker and drag it up. And we'll repeat the process with the next one. Pumpkins grow big and round. I think of this one as a xylophone going up. So I like starting the low end and then ascending on the scale. And this gives students an opportunity to explore the instrument without really making them have any parameters what they're playing except for just going up. Leaves falling in a bunch. The same thing with the xylophone except for descending this time. And then the last one, jump on and crunch, crunch, crunch. And this one reminds me of the sand blocks, so I'm going to drag the sand blocks up here. Alrighty, so next I'm ready for the boys and girls to perform this chant. And for this one, I'm going to remind them about following the cues of a conductor. So making sure that they know, okay, when I point to you, it's your turn. And when my hands circle, that means to stop. So that way we're getting them ready for this stage here. And we're adding those cues of a conductor to practicing to develop our musical skills. So we're ready to play again and go through the song again, howling wind all around, and then shakers and so forth. If I like that one, I can keep it, jot it down somewhere in a notebook, and then if I don't, I can reset and try again and let the students explore with the different sounds. Now let's think about how we can get this particular example to the stage. One thing that we can do is we can perform it just like we did in our classroom. So we can have the backing track, play it, and then the students play the instruments on the stage. Shakers and maracas are an excellent instrument to bring with you to the stage because they are small. They can fit right at your feet, right below when students are standing on risers or in pockets. For the xylophones, you can invite 1 or 2 students down to the front to play those. And sand blocks are also small too, that can fit easily right next to them, so you can pass them out before the performance starts and they're ready for the fall chant. Another thing that you can do to bring this to the stage to help you with your performance ideas for the fall chant is to invite a student, either an older student or a student who is comfortable speaking in public, to read the chant while the other students perform the instrument parts. Another idea is to have a parent read the chant for you or a fellow teacher read the chant, or all students can perform the chant. If you need a backing track to help keep the students together as they're performing, consider using a hi-hat, loop, and cue backbeat as you're performing to act as your metronome. Another idea is to invite students to perform with the track just like you practiced in class. You can extend this song to make it longer. We do see that it is only 25 seconds. Consider adding different stanzas to make it longer. So instead of howling wind all around, think about inspiration from what your boys and girls like to do in the fall time. Maybe jumping in leaves, maybe going to football games, and then add instrument sound effects to each line that your students create. Also, you can use the loop at the bottom, and so that way you can do it 2 or 3 times instead of just 1 to extend the fall chant when you take it to the stage. The next song that we have here is A Heart Full of Thanks. And A Heart Full of Thanks is for the older students. It is one of our secondary songs. And for our secondary songs here, I would like to think about mallet techniques. So I always want to keep in the back of my head, what can I be teaching to students when I have a thematic performance? And if I have boys and girls who are ready to work on mallet technique, I want to focus in on the alto xylophone part first. It is an open bordune that is repetitive, that I can get boys and girls to do the bilateral motion and really narrow in on that specific skill. When I take it to the stage, I have a couple of different ways to do that. I can think about performing just the alto xylophone part and then having students singing. That will be a lovely, wonderful performance. If my boys and girls need support, they can do those parts with the backing track playing. They do not have to do them in isolation by themselves. Or if boys and girls need a challenge, consider adding additional parts. So we have here a recorder part, a second recorder part, soprano, xylophone, alto xylophone, and a shaker. So make it meaningful for your students when you take it to this stage. If you do not want the singing to be focused, you can always mute the vocals using the mixer and the button here. So that way it is not heard during your performance if you only want your students to be performing, or if you have a soloist who is at the microphone performing this song. If they do need a little support, remember you can turn this down a little bit to make it so it is slightly heard, but it is not evident in the performance. The next season that we have is winter, and winter is the shortening of days in anticipation of the upcoming holiday season, and it brings communities together to perform. So we have our thematic program repertoire with holidays as the inspiration. For the primary students, we have celebration song, jingle bells, Chinese dance from the Nutcracker, and up on the housetop. For your younger students for costuming, take inspiration from the songs. I like to think about Up on the Housetop. And with Up on the Housetop, I think about a child who is waiting in anticipation for the holidays and their holiday pajamas. Consider inviting students to wear their holiday pajamas to the performance. For the secondary grades, we have Holidays, Frosty the Snowman, Joy of Christmas, and Boogie Woogie Holiday. For costuming for the secondary grades, consider inviting them to wear something that they would wear to take a picture for their holiday card. Our repertoire example that we're going to dive into for the holidays for secondary is Boogie Woogie Holiday. For Boogie Woogie Holiday, we have an opportunity to review. So if we're thinking about midpoint way through the year here, we have accidentals in this song. And if you're following along with the 5th grade curriculum, we have already covered accidentals by this point. We have recorders. And the recorder range is from C to G. So obtainable for 5th grade, midpoint in the year. We have a clapping rhythmic part, so echo rhythm patterns. We have tempo changes with accelerando and retardando in this song. We also have swing style. Here you can see at the 8th notes are swung, marked at the beginning. So with this piece, we have plenty of opportunities to review concepts that we have already taught at this point in the year. And you have an opportunity to consider taking it to the stage. This song has a featured section within a repeated part. The repeated part happens during this song. You can see we're going on a boogie woogie holiday. No more school, I cannot wait. This text right here repeats. And then we have the interlude that has the unique part. So you can see we have the clap part. You have a call and response clap. So another concept you can review with this song. And then the repetition of the line that we have already learned to sing. You can see the accidentals there. And then we have the jump part. This is a little movement. And if you are on risers, think about it as instead of a full on out jump, think about it as just standing up on tippy toes and then lowering back down. So don't be intimidated by it. If you are taking this one to the stage with risers, make an illusion of jumping instead. And then the last part, we can skip ahead here so you can see a little bit of the recorder. You can see the recorder part here, BAG. So a wonderful review for beginning recorder students. It does split here, making meaningful for your students. Consider only having the bottom part played or the top part instead of having multiple parts. Last comments on this song to get it to the stage is to think about having each class master one of the sections, the featured sections of the song. So everyone sings the repeated part on the text, and then if it's the motion for the jumping, If it's the recorder or the clapping part, think about teaching that part to one class. And then they get to focus on that particular skill as you bring it to the stage. So you might have a class who needs to focus on this skill, and then another class who could really benefit from focusing on a different skill. And then the students who are not performing on the jumping part or the clapping part, the other students can show them the jazz hands to really spotlight that class. If you're short on time and you need to be able to differentiate different skills with the song, or everyone can perform every part and it will be a beautiful performance. The next song that we have is from our holidays repertoire is the Nutcracker, the Chinese dance from the Nutcracker, and it's designed for your younger students, your primary age students. It is a movement piece, but it is stationary movement. It is not walking around, so pretty easy to bring to the stage to use with risers. There are props. You don't have to use the props. The props are there. Students can use their hands or students can use scarves. So when you open this resource to get to the song and to the video, select Performance, and then you'll see the song as well as the video, and students can perform with this video, but they don't have to be looking at it. If you take your laptop to your performance venue and then you have your laptop plugged in for audio, they can hear the song and perform with it. So when you do look at this, you notice that it is in two parts. There are two people performing here. So we do have two groups that are performing. Consider splitting your groups, teaching one class one side of the part and then the other classes a different part, and adding some variety to your performance. That's not just singing or instruments, but movement. The next celebration we have is Earth Day for spring. And spring is a time for celebrating warmer weather and watching new life grow. So we have inspiration from nature and animals for our thematic repertoire for spring. For the primary grades, we have Bluebird, Spring Chant, Rain, Rain, Go Away, and Deep in the Forest. And for costuming, consider taking inspiration from the songs. So we can have students wear a pretty blue solid colored shirt that paints a wonderful picture of a blue sky on the stage, or asking students to wear a shirt with an animal on it for their Earth Day performance. For secondary students, we have Deep in the Forest, Flight of the Bumblebee, What a Magical World, and Save the Planet. The first repertoire song for Earth Day is for the secondary grades here, is Deep in the Forest. This is an excellent example of La pentatonic. So if I know I'm going to teach La pentatonic this year, and I know I'm going to perform in the spring, I'm going to save this song for the spring so I can use La pentatonic. If I have a student who needs an additional challenge to continue inspiring their growing musical mind, I can consider inviting them to play the melody on a barred instrument for this song during the performance as well as during class time. Remember, you do have the loop feature here at the bottom, so if you do want to extend the song, turn the loop on, so that way the song will repeat and you can perform it twice. You have the support of the vocals or without the vocals that you can use during your performance. So turn them off if your students do not need the support and you are not interested in having that, or leave it on for students to hear the vocals as they're performing. The next song that we have is Deep in the Forest, Habitat lyrics. When you search this song in Resource Manager, the song is called Habitat, but to find the song, make sure you type in Deep in the Forest, Habitat lyrics. So I want to make sure that you know how to get to this song in Resource Manager. This song is an excellent example of ostinato. There is a rhythmic ostinato that is driving in the song, and there's also an example of movement that students can do in the song for animal movements. Let's take a quick listen and see if you can hear that rhythmic ostinato that is driving.
Habitat. It's where we live, where our home is at.
In the interest of time, I am going to stop there, but you can hear that there is a predominant ostinato in the background. Invite your students to clap along with the ostinato during the performance and use ostinato as your teaching point for this song. Our last celebration and season that we have is summer, which is graduation time. The primary grades are focused on celebrating the joy of being a child, as well as growing up and what lies ahead with summer. Secondary focuses on the changing of seasons that we have, and so that we are going to change what's coming up. We're going to new places, summertime activities, but no matter where you go, always be who you are, and you will never walk alone, and you'll always have friends. So with our primary program, we have Almost Summertime. If you're happy and you know it, ants in our pants and be what you want to be. For secondary, we have People Change, Sailing, Lean on Me, and Unique. For Almost Summertime, we have an excellent example of form. So in the lyrics pages for Almost Summertime, the form letters are in the lyrics pages. So you can consider inviting students to make different summertime motions that they can do for each section of the song. For instance, if they like to swim in the summertime, consider making a motion like swimming for the A section, and then if they like fishing, maybe pretend fishing during the B section of the song as they perform it and take it to the stage. The last repertoire example that we have today is Sailing. And sailing is a round. And so I brought up the Song Hub here too, so that way we could see when you do search in Resource Manager and you go to songs, you'll see there's lots of different options in the Song Hub. So you have your full score, you have your lyrics, and if there's any resources available to help you with the song, it will show up in the Song Hub. But this one is an excellent example of a round. So I'm going to pull this one up. And so I know I'm going to teach round. I'm going to save this song for the end of the year. So that way we have round that we are practicing with summer in mind that I know we're going to perform at the end of the year to take it to the stage. So here's group 1. I can turn off group 1. I can turn off group 2, so forth. And the highlights with the song. So let's take a quick listen so you can see how it highlights.
It's a wonderful day to go sailing on the lake with the wind in my hair. It's like a holiday to go sailing. It's like a...
So there is an example of round with the resources here for sailing that can help your boys and girls learn to sing around. So a couple of last-minute differentiation ideas for performance. We kind of hinted at them as we were going through the session today, but movement. Remember that you can modify the movements to meet the needs of your students. So if you do not have the props, for instance, the streamers that were mentioned in the Nutcracker selection, you don't have to use props. Text is another thing that you can do to differentiate for your students. I think about the song Deck the Halls. There's a lot of text in Deck the Halls. Consider using the first verse as a repeat. And so monitoring the text amounts can also help take some of these songs to the stage to make it accessible to your students for performance. Another thing to differentiate is the instruments. And so there's instrument parts that you can choose to leave out. Nobody in a performance will know if you focused on one instrument part when there's more instrument parts in the song. So meet the needs of your students, help them grow, and make a meaningful performance. A few last closing thoughts here before we close out the session is finding the resources. The resources are listed in the handout. In the chat, there's a link for you. You have a planning guide. So if you come up with your own ideas as you're teaching the curriculum this year, keep that planning guide handy. And so jot down your ideas for your thematic performances for your boys and girls this year. And then you also have in the handout your the repertoire selections that were in this session. And so if you go to Resource Manager and type at the top, Wind Up the Apple Tree, all of these resources about Wind Up the Apple Tree will come up, and then click on the Songs tab right here. You can see it. Select the Songs tab, and that will bring you to the Song Hub, which is what you saw in Sailing. And then also make sure to check out video. The Nutcracker selection will not show, the video performances that we saw will not show unless you click on this little tab up here. So make sure that you do select the video tab, songs, and interactives while you're looking for these resources in Resource Manager for your thematic performances this year. In review, you are now able to find and identify performance literature ideas for every season for primary and secondary grades, identify teaching concept examples and sample performance repertoire, identify differentiated strategies to meet the needs of diverse learners during a performance. Enjoy QuaverCon 2022, and thank you for joining Taking Songs to the Stage.